This is show number 38, and tonight we shall continue our discussion on the great topic, marine pilotage in the Bahamas. Of course, last week we had quite an exciting show on this topic, but we didn't get halfway through where we wanted to go. So tonight, we're going to try and get it all in. We expect some exciting calls, and we're going to move through as we discuss how many pilots we have in the Bahamas to bring in those huge internationally trading ships. What are some of the various islands that such ships call on? How can one qualify to become a marine pilot? Why is the remuneration they receive so handsome? Why do they make so much money? We'll find out why, because they're such experts, eh? Is it mandatory for ships to hire pilots? Which entity issues the licenses for marine pilots? Which entity is mandated by law to oversee pilots and pilots' apprentices? This one is going to be lively. It's going to be provocative. So please stay tuned. As always, our sponsors for tonight's show. One-on-One Pharmacy, the big dogs. Yeah. You need pharmaceutical needs? You need to check out One-on-One Pharmacy. They're located on East Street South and Charles Sanders Highway. And they got a third location coming again in Freeport. It ain't off the ground yet, but they're moving there. They're almost there. So Freeport people, hang in there. One-on-One Pharmacy will be coming your way. So if you want to fill your prescription at the store, you just go right in there. Check them out. Very friendly people. They got everything you need, people. If you don't want to go to the store and put in that time, you can go online to oneononepharmacy.com. And your prescription can be done online. So when you reach the store, everything is packaged and waiting. That's how I always do mine. Everything packaged and waiting for you. Just go and give them that little thing. And you're straight. Once you want it, they have it. They ain't never short of nothing. When you walk in the door, they treat you like royalty, people. So go to One-on-One Pharmacy anytime you need mediceuticals, pharmaceuticals, medication, whatever you need. One-on-One Pharmacy has it for you. We secondly sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. Yeah, that's BMC. That's us. We are proud to be sponsors of Maritime Matters. Of course, we offer the full slate of maritime, ISPS maritime security services, security personnel, security audits, security plans, security assessments. And even if you need security ISPS consultancy, we are there for you. Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. Of course, it would be remiss of me to go any further and not introduce my great, wonderful producer for tonight. He's back, ladies and gentlemen. I introduce to you the insatiable, the man of the hour, the man with all the power, the man who keeps things going. He is hell on the wheels of steel. We got on our hands tonight, Mr. Craig Gibson. Yes, and he salutes the crowd with that great salute he has. I mean, he even holds his fingers right. Boy, Craig, I tell you, I gotta watch you. We gotta get you in the military, man. I think you've been there, but we you belong there. You are listening to Maritime Matters, people. On this show, we talk maritime. Maritime Matters airs weekly at 19:30 every Tuesday night here on Love 97 FM. The purpose of our show is to highlight persons. And tonight we could be highlighting certain pilots. Well, I'm sure I call them their name, but we got some pilots out there need highlighting that made significant contribution to the maritime field in the Bahamas and to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities, and plenty of opportunities in pilotage. Hey, you need to qualify first, but we can talk about all the details in the maritime sector. Halfway through the show, we will open the phone lines. Number to call will be 326-8255. I repeat, we're going to open the lines really soon because you only got me to deal with tonight. I was supposed to have a co-host, but I ain't going to call his name. I still hoping he show up before the show up. That's my dog. But I looking for him to show up. He might come. The number to call again, 326-8255. Again, I like to highlight our outstanding maritime heroes of the past, and may all 5 of their souls continue to rest in peace. And we talk about none other than the champion skipper of the HMBS Flamingo, Senior Commander Amos the Führer Roll. Another Exomian, port control extraordinaire from way back in the day, Mr. Leon Flowers, the sloop sailing pioneer of the Bahamas, the legendary, the one and only Captain Raleigh Gray. And then we got our Olympic sailing gold medalist. Notice to win a gold in Olympic, boy, every time you win a gold in Olympics, $1 million should be coming your way. We ain't finished with that topic yet. Sir David Knowles and Cecil Cook, the only 2 Bahamians ever to win a gold in the Olympics in any maritime-related activity. And they won it in sailing, the star class. Sailing the star class to glory. Sir David Knowles and Cecil Cook. So that's our heroes. And I want to go into talking a little bit about what's going on in the maritime field. Kishno, what's happening, man? My other producer, Kishno Jones in the house, just giving him a little heel up. I want him to think I see him. Yes, sir. And he's saluting too. Boy, look at this, a saluting operation up in here. So I want to talk a bit about what's going on in the maritime field, because we haven't talked about that for a while. But I ain't going deep into it. You know why? Because I had too much time to make preparation. But guess what? Russia is still bombarding the headlines. You know, very recently, just I think 2 days ago, over the weekend. Anyway, Russia started to bombard Kiev, which is, you know, the big city, the capital of Ukraine. And the bombs start falling like I don't know what. And they trying to figure out what's going on, because they thought they was out of the woodworks. They figure Russia ain't coming back to Kiev, because when they tried to come there, they couldn't get in. You know, they had all kind of mines along the roads, and all the Russian tanks was getting blown up. And so Russia decided to pull back. Boy, but they came back. But guess what? They ain't coming with no tanks. What you think Russia came with? Russia came with drones. And where they got the drones from? Would you believe it? They got drones coming in from Iran. Iran made drones. So those drones are loaded with bombs. And they just flew in. And the thing is, they ain't fast. These drones only doing about 100 miles per hour. You know, missiles is do over 1,000 miles per hour. These drones coming in 100 miles per hour. But there's so many of them. You ever hear about a blitz? Those of you who know football, who watch football all the time, you blitz the quarterback. You know what you mean? You send more than the regular amount of people, and you know somebody can get through. But what a blitz does, well, you got to be careful with a blitz, because when you blitz the quarterback, that means they got a man open. If you could get to that man before you get to him, you're in trouble. But anyway, Russia decided to do a blitz with those Iranian missiles coming in on drones. And of course, the Ukrainians was able to shoot down a lot of them. But for every one of them that landed, man, that was trouble. But guess what? They were so precise. You see, those drones are controlled. Those drones they're loaded with what you call it when you go to the States and you rent the GPS to find out where you are and help you get around the highways and whatnot. They are GPS loaded. So they know exactly where they are. They know where they're going. They know how to get there. And if they send 3 or 4 in the same area, you might get 2, you might get 3. Boy, but if one land, you're in trouble. So this is the tactic that Russia decided to use. And, you know, it's a big mess now, because Ukraine in Kiev, they never experienced getting bombs hit them like that. Because Russia didn't hit them from the air. And that's another thing. Russia even ain't going to really pulling the Air Force out and sending it at Ukrainians yet. See, a lot of people don't understand what's going on with this war, you know. They think that, Ukraine winning this war because Russia can't get nowhere. Russia don't want to destroy Ukraine, people. Ukraine is their little brother. When they don't get the leadership of Ukraine out. And all they want to do is change leadership. If the leader of Ukraine was to right now say, you know what, I am going to get out of Ukraine, and it's up to the people if they want Russia to take over. Russia ain't going to have no more aggression, you know. Russia only want whoever running Ukraine to listen to them and not join the EU and not join NATO, because they don't want the US and British and all of Europe bringing their ammunition right on their border. Ukraine is a buffer zone between them, and that's, well, I was saying that from day one. Anybody who was following me know that's what the deal is. And then there's a pipeline that going in, and this was in the news today. There's a Nord Stream pipeline that Russia has, like 5 or 6 big, huge pipelines coming from Russia into Europe, 2 different countries, right? But the Nord Stream one apparently got busted, and they can't use that no more. Now that one fed, I guess, the Baltic area. And Norway sent some underwater exploiting submarines. Well, of course, they don't have people in them. That's those submarines that could go way to the bottom of the ocean without people, and they got cameras and all the rest of it to see what's going on. And they discovered that the rupture had to be a big blast. It ain't just a little leak. It's a big blast. Now, they want to say so bad that Russia's behind blasting this pipeline. In my opinion, that can't be the case, because Russia's the one making the money. Russia's sending the gas through those pipelines. And people have to pay Russia for that gas. So why would they rupture a pipeline? All they do is turn the gas off and tell them they ain't getting no more gas. Why would they rupture the pump? Well, I don't know all the details. Somebody who have all the details behind whether it's strategic for Russia to damage their own pipelines make any sense, could call in and let me know what's happening. Because the way I see it, it can't be Russia. It probably happened because of some reason, but I don't think no country deliberately caused that pipeline to rupture, because Russia offered them an alternative. Russia said, look here, that pipeline ruptured. We send a new pipeline now through Turkey. Turkey is, big, them and Russia kind of tight. But Turkey also tight with a lot of other countries. Turkey is the one that brokered the deal between Russia and Ukraine to get all that grain they had in those silos, to create a pathway for ships to go in and out of the port in Ukraine to get the grain to send it around the world, because, Ukraine was responsible for about 20% of the world's grain. And Turkey was a country that got together with the United Nations and brokered a deal so that Russia and Ukraine would allow ships to freely go. Well, of course, they created a pathway, because, they got mines all over the Black Sea. Russia got mines, Ukraine got mines, and they got to tell you where they are or where you could go to avoid them. So they brokered a deal where ships, and now the ships are actually backing up because there's so many of them. And the world needs the grain. Because, you need grain to make cereal, you need grain to make bread, you need grain to make all kind of things. And that grain being away from the world really created havoc in a lot of countries, especially the poorer big countries that depend on this grain for bread and that type of thing. So that's what Russia is saying now. We have this new pipeline, or we're going to increase what we got going on to Europe by way of Turkey. And once you want gas, we can still get you the gas. But it got to go through a different route because, of course, the Nord Stream pipeline is ruptured. And so why would Russia even offer that if they wanted to put the squeal or if they didn't want to provide gas to the European countries? Well, of course, if Russia was to actually shut down now and say, we're not going to give you no gas, they're going to suffer this winter because it's supposed to be a cold winter. And if they don't have that gas, they ain't going to have their space heaters. They'll be cold, they'll be suffering. And that's why they depend so heavily on Russian gas. That's why Russia can't lose when it comes to them talking about sanctions and whatnot, because they need that Russian gas. They need a lot of things out of Russia. Anyway, enough Russia. We're not going to go any further with that. We're going to take a break now. We're talking maritime, people. You are now listening to Maritime Matters. So we take a break now, and when we return, we will engage our discussion. We will open the line. Listen, people, you don't want to touch that dial. You don't want to miss this one. This one could be off the jizzy. Thank you so much.
Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Sanders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart. At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back live on Maritime Matters. At this point, the lines are open. You can reach me at 8328. That's 326. That's 326 8255. That's 326 8255. I don't know why I'm babbling on this number and I'm supposed to know this so good, man. You know. But anyway, it's 326 8255. Now, let me kind of recap on last week. We were talking about pilots in the Bahamas. Where are all the pilots? How do you become pilots? Who is responsible for the pilots? How many pilots are there to bring in those huge international ships? We said Nassau has a limit of 8. You cannot have no more than 8 pilots at any one time in Nassau. But I say back in the day, it used to be 4. Then it went to 5. Now it's 8. Nassau is not a very busy harbor per se that in my opinion, technically needs more than 8 professional pilots. But what I would say, too, is those pilots should have apprentices. Because apprentices can assist with the smaller vessels, eh? And we can talk in details about how you assist with smaller vessels. Freeport has, in my estimation, based on what I know of Freeport, they got a couple different port areas. You got the Port Authority or the harbor of Freeport, the Deepwater Harbor. You got Buckeye jetties, Equinor jetties, and then you got the Anchorage area right outside of Freeport, Deepwater Harbor. And, you know, that they got like 25 to 30 in total. Could be a little more, but I'd say about 25 to 30 at least to take care of those 4 areas of pilots. Because Freeport is quite busy. You know, Freeport is very busy. It's the largest port we have in the Bahamas, the most industrial area in the Bahamas. And, you know, they make Nassau look small when it comes to ship movements on a daily basis. Then we got 2 going in and out of Inagua. Main pilots to take care of the ships going in and out of Inagua. You know, Inagua produces a lot of salt, and that salt got to be exported. And as that salt is exported, those ships need pilots to bring them to the dock, take them off the dock. And they may need a little push boat assistance, boy, but I don't even think they got no tugs down there. I don't know how they do it down in Inagua. Because, you know, when you got a single screw, big, large ship, sometimes no bow thruster, and you got to get that ship on a dock, it's difficult to do it without having tugboats. But these guys do it, and they're doing it over and over and over again. So hats off to them, man. I really wouldn't want that job. But, you know, they will find a way to make it happen because they've been Stevie Fox, my boy, and Alex and those guys. They've been doing it. They're getting it done, and they're doing it all the time. So hats off to you guys, man. You guys are good. Then, of course, we got the big question. What are some of the islands that such ships call? And we talk about Nassau, Freeport, and Inagua, but we got more. We got Bimini, where cruise ships now come in big numbers. Almost on a daily basis, there's a cruise ship in Bimini. Sometimes you got 2 ships to the dock at one time. Sometimes one coming in the day, when they leave, another one come that night, and then another one come the next morning. So busy. Bimini is really picking up. Bimini is doing big things there at Resort World. And the dock out there, of course, one of the hurricanes passed and to give it some damage. It was down for a while. They got it back together. And the ships are piling in, man. Hats off to Bimini. And, of course, they use pilots there, too. And I think they use the same pilots from the Anchorage area and Freeport, outside of Freeport Harbor. Because, of course, Bimini doesn't have any local Biminites that have any experience in piloting large ships. So that may be an opportunity now for some Biminite to start apprenticing, get qualified as a seafarer and start apprenticing when those ships got to come in and go out at Bimini, so that eventually they may become the pilot. They may have a local Biminite piloting ships at Bimini. Then we have Ocean Key, which is just further down the strips of Bimini chain. It used to be Ocean Key. Well, it still is Ocean Key. And that is owned by MSC Cruises. That's about the 4th, I think, largest cruise ship entity right now. We got Disney. Well, I think they're a little bigger than Disney, actually. Disney don't have as much ships as MSC. And I think MSC ships, when you look size-wise, they're probably a little larger than the largest. Some of the ships are larger. Their largest ships are larger than the largest ships that Disney carry. So they would be third to Carnival, RCCL or RCI or Royal Caribbean, that is. And then, of course, you got Norwegian Cruise Line, NCL, which will be coming in third. And I think fourth in that regard would be the Ocean Key people dealing with MSC Cruises. And then we got a call on the line. That's what we got. Call, I'm coming to you in a minute. Thank you for calling so quickly. But let me just finish this list. After Ocean Key, we got Castaway Key, which was there for a long time. That's the Disney island, which used to be Gorda Key. They also have cruise ships coming in there daily, I think 7 days a week. I know it used to be 6 the last I checked. It's probably 7 now because Disney got more ships. And last but not least, one of the newer ones, Coco Key, which is in the Berry Islands. They always had ships come on anchor. Now they have a dock where they could actually accommodate the largest cruise ships in the world, because they are owned by RCCL, and as we know, RCCL has the largest cruise ships in the world. But one thing we don't know yet, one thing I can tell you, they're not taking ballots. That's one of the places we got to go with this conversation. So let me get to the caller, and let's get this party started. Let's get this party started, right? Caller, you're on Maritime Matters. Good evening to you. Thank you very much for calling.
Hey, Glenn, what's up, buddy?
Hey, JT, boy. I thought you'd hired me, man. I hear from you in a little while on the show.
Boy, I tell you, these evenings have been extremely busy for me, so...
Yeah, that's good news, man. Once it's good busy, busy's always good. Once it's good busy.
There you go. I caught a little bit of the show last week.
Okay, great, man. You didn't get a chance to call in, or you was a little tied up?
But that's why I'm doing my best to call you today.
Yeah, man, beautiful. Go right ahead, my brother.
Before I get into your topic, I'd like to ask you if you would consider a particular topic. I've not heard all of your shows, so I don't know if you talked about this one, but the cruise port here in Nassau and its development and the plans for that. Have you had that topic on your show yet? I
haven't dealt with them directly to say just deal with them. I mentioned them a lot of times. But I agree with you, and very soon I'll see if I can get one of their representatives. I kind of scared to go down that line because I don't have too much good things to say, but what I know about that. But
the good thing is you won't be saying the thing. Hey, you'll be letting the host, the guest talk, right?
Well, we'll have things to discuss. I'll give my views lightly.
You've shown yourself as a straightforward, straight shooter when it comes to putting information out there regarding maritime issues.
Yeah, once I see things going kind of a little off from what I know it should be, I would address it.
But my thing is, I'm sure I'm probably not the only one in the listening audience who believes this and appreciates this. But we out here like to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay, well, you know how we roll. I know you're a fellow who call it out yourself. You're easy.
Life is what life is, and the thing is that port is still owned by you and I, the Bahamian people. It's not been sold, you know. They're
Right.
only leasing it as far as I understand, and I stand to be corrected on that if I'm wrong.
Yeah, but if somebody leasing your house for 25 years, JT, come on, man. You ain't own that right then.
If they
You
lease
gotta
it
wait for plenty
25
years.
They have the right to lease it under certain conditions, but they still don't own it. I still own it.
Yeah, but
You
why?
still own it.
Why would you? Anyway, we can have that. Let's stick with Marine Palace tonight. But,
Yeah, but
in
my
fact, I
point
can
is-
have you come in here when I do that show.
Don't hesitate to bring that show on.
Well, I want you to be right here with me.
Well, hey, if I'm available, buddy, I'll be happy to.
All right, my brother. We'll
Well,
arrange that.
I was curious about this issue of piloting. Again, like I said, I didn't hear all of your shows on this topic either.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm curious to know, how many licensed pilots are there in the Bahamas today?
We have about, well, like I was saying earlier in the show, and callers, I see two callers on the line, so I'm going to get to you shortly. Like I was saying earlier, on this point, we have like 25 in Freeport, but out of that number, you probably got about 15 of them licensed. And it's a technical thing with Freeport. I'm going to go into that a little bit, but all of the pilots in Freeport don't have a license.
Okay.
Right?
But for the whole country, though, do you know off the
Yeah,
top of your head
it's
quickly, how
about
many?
eight in Nassau and 2 in Inagua and about 15 in Freeport. So you're talking about 20 or
Okay.
25 in total.
Got it. My
Right.
other question is, and then I'll let you go. Is there any national program right now in existence that is training and preparing Bahamians to grow into as well as go into this industry of harbor piloting?
But the good thing about it, Jerome, is we don't have any foreign pilots today. Today, all of the foreign pilots have been replaced. We have only Bahamian pilots in this country.
Wonderful. Good.
But the program to for apprentices to come into the system leaves a lot to be desired, and that's one of the things we'll be discussing tonight. And we touched upon it last week, but we're going to finish it tonight.
Maybe you should consider the idea of going into some of these schools and making a presentation to some of the young people to find out,
Yeah, well,
how many of them you could want to inspire to help you to get into that industry.
Yeah, that's a very good idea, and I certainly will consider that. I hope that the port department will engage me if they wish in doing such, or even engage the pilots, the senior pilots that we have in Harbour now. Some of them have been doing that.
In respect to your business, maybe just write some letters to the Ministry of Education or schools and ask them if they wouldn't mind you coming in and just talking about this as a career path to the students or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea, and I'm more than happy to do that. We'll look into that, my brother.
All right, good buddy. I'll let some of the other callers get in then, and we'll play catch up, my friend.
Appreciate it, Jerome, and you take care, man. Continue to keep in touch.
Sure, buddy.
Okay, bye now. Caller, you're live on Maritime Matters. My apologies for having you hold.
Yes, I wanted to add a list of ports that are requiring pilotage, and we have several marinas or docks that have been approved by the government, one in Long Island, one in Grand Bahama. And my question is whether or not these heads of agreement supersedes the requirement for pilotage, because none of these crucial ports have pilots, so there must be a substantive reason for that. It can't be that we just refuse to apply the laws that require that they have pilots. So there has to be some reason why you would approve a multi-million, $250 million cruise port that doesn't include pilotage. And this is both in Grand Bahama, South Elutra, and now Long Island.
But who says that they do not include requirement for pilots? Who says that? Because the law says they do require pilots.
But what I'm saying is, as they approve these, because, the Bahamas, notoriously, they operate on an international basis, but they don't have laws that govern these things that they do. So
we do have laws that govern any ship coming anywhere in this country requiring pilots. There are laws that govern that over and over again. Now, whether the authorities are applying those laws is a different story, and you and I know they're not. So that's another area I'm going to get into before the night is out.
So I just wanted to add that to your list because we are what is in existence.
Well, my list.
And I think that in the Nassau, where you said the 8, there's one additional person that was approved as a pilot out of Grand Bahama into the Nassau area as well. So there's actually more than 8.
No, that person is included in the 8, and I know everything about that. So yeah, you're not going to change that number 8 because the law requires 8, and I could name them for you, and he is one of those.
Okay. So
Yes,
then that means somebody was superseded as far as the persons who were in the list as apprentices because he was not one of the apprentices.
Well, he is now a pilot. Whether he was not the first person to come in from Grand Bahama and not be an apprentice.
I'm saying the supersession. So that means that if you have a list of persons that should have been appointed as pilots, and then you bring in somebody, parachute somebody in that wasn't in the program for the 8.
No, but we didn't have 8 pilots. We never had 8 pilots. He was appointed before we had 8. Actually, he was appointed before I was appointed, and I made that number 8. So when the law changed to have.
Is he the next in succession?
Well, I don't know who is.
Because you wait your turn, right?
I have to wait my turn.
So if you parachute people in from different places who didn't go through the process.
The process is not being enforced, and I told you the entity is responsible for making that happen and not doing it. We have everything on the books, but it's not being enforced. I can't put that no other way. And until we start to enforce it, we will always have these little stuff happening that shouldn't happen.
As we progress in developing ports around the island, in and around the Bahamas, if we continue to ignore the fact that the pilotage is required, then it would go without saying that these new developments would also go without pilots.
No, but once we fix the system, we got to start from home. Once we fix the system as it is now, those things will not have loopholes for these ships to not carry pilots because the system will be applied. Once we start to apply, the system will be applied throughout, That's what I'm aiming to make sure happen. And if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to stop. They may not listen to me, but I can keep telling them the book say this is supposed to happen. Let's make it happen.
All right.
So I thank you so much for your call, and stay tuned because we got another couple callers on the line.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Caller, you're live on Maritime Matters. My apology for the wait time.
Good evening, Captain Bain. This is Captain Bain.
Captain Brain, how are you, sir?
I'm excellent. I just wanted to find out. I know when the anchorage of Grand Bahama was established. As a matter of fact, I think I may have been at the port at the time. And if I'm not mistaken, it was established for independent pilots. Am I not correct?
Well, all pilots are independent that the minister gives a license to. So I'm not sure it could be anything else other than independent pilots. The minister can only give an independent pilot a license. They don't give a license to anything other than an individual.
Well, I'm talking about persons who were duly qualified as pilots, who previously were kind of disenfranchised from the Freeport system and wanted to be able to carve out a living for themselves. And if I'm not mistaken, the anchorage that was established, any one of those entities could have put down roots and pilot ships into the anchorage. Is that not correct?
Well, they couldn't have done it without the license from the minister because the license that they would have had previously. The license that they would have had previously would limit them to the Deepwater Harbor of Freeport Harbor only. They couldn't go nowhere and operate outside of Freeport Harbor, just the way it is now for Freeport Harbor pilots. They don't have a license to operate outside of Freeport Harbor.
Right. So they, rather than when that happened, these individuals petitioned the minister, and that anchorage was established, and any one of those entities, any one of those duly qualified pilots could bring in ships into the anchorage. Yes.
Well, the situation is those people got into some problems. As far as I know it, they got into some problems. I think they
before you go into problems, I want to know if what I'm saying is correct. Because my next question is predicated on the answer that you give.
Okay, I want to clear line one, Herbie. If you could just hold, because me and you go a little long. The reason why I'm answering you the way I am is because there's a lot I could say about that I want to say, but okay. I don't want to hold on all this time. So you just hold the line 1 second.
Okay.
All right. Caller, you're live on Maritime Matters. My apology for the delay. Nobody there? Okay, so I go back to my good friend, Captain Brain. Captain Brain, don't say must there anybody on that line. Okay, so we're talking about the harbor, the pilotage for the anchorage just outside of the Deepwater Harbor of Freeport, which is around 8 Mile Rock area, Hebron Town, that area, right?
Yeah.
So let's get the history so that the listeners would understand where the question is coming from.
Okay.
We had a group of pilots in Freeport, and this ain't the first time a group of pilots in Freeport tried. They just wanted to form an association so that instead of Freeport Harbor hiring them to bring ships in the harbor, they would own the association, and Freeport Harbor would have no option than to use that association to provide piloted services. So a good number of them decided to unite.
Right.
And they made that attempt, and it didn't work out because what the port director of Freeport Harbor at the time, of course, he has an obligation to keep his ships coming in, eh? So he still had a couple pilots, and he brought in some younger pilots or some people who were not in the system. And he kind of flooded the system with newbies, and the experienced ones really helped them along. And then he brought in one or two people who had some good experience driving ships, and I'm sure you know some of them, and they were able to survive. So the pilots that decided they want to form this association and kind of force the Freeport Harbor Company to utilize their services found that they had nothing to do because they were not being utilized, they were not being called upon, and they didn't have a license to operate nowhere else. So in view of the fact that, these people, they were breadwinners for their family and whatnot, the minister at the time, and we all know it was Minister Glennis Anna Martin, she decided to take some action and give them some jobs. So she decided, look, this anchorage out here, this is not in the Deepwater Harbor. I will, since you are already pilots, I will give you a pilot license to bring ships on this anchorage. And that's the crux of how it happened, why it happened. And they got licenses to pilot ships on and off the anchorage outside of Freeport Harbor. And that's their major role today. And that's why and how that happened.
The question is, when the minister granted those licenses, did the minister grant license to individuals? Did the minister, under the regulation, the regulations that govern that particular anchorage, did it reference an association?
No. There's no... See, first of all, the Port Authority Act didn't change. I know they added a piece on for that harbor area, and the only thing they changed is they're saying that harbor area could have up to 10 licensed pilots. That's they didn't bring in a new set of laws for that.
Right.
The same laws that apply to pilots, period, applies to them. So once they get that license, and that license is restricted to the Freeport Anchorage area, and I'm not sure there is a restriction on any license, because they ain't on mine, right? My license doesn't say Nassau Harbor.
Okay.
I have a pilot's license from the minister. And I'm not suggesting that maybe I could go anywhere and use it. But I'm saying to you that if you look at the details of those licenses, there's no real hard restrictions, right? But I'm sure it was understood that they're getting this license to pilot ships on that. And because, you wouldn't want a conflict, because quite technically, the minister can't even give them a license to operate in the Deepwater Harbor Freeport. There are two entities in this country that can issue a license to pilots. Those two entities are the Minister of Transport and the port director for Grand Bahama Port Authority. They're the only two entities in this country that could issue a license for somebody to pilot a ship. And of course, the port director could only issue a license for somebody who's going to pilot a ship within the Deepwater Harbor or Freeport.
Right.
So we got entities, and I'm not afraid to say it. We got entities like Buckeye. We got entities like Equinor, which used to be Statoil, which used to be South Riding Point. They don't have no license. They got pilots. But unless the minister issued them licenses, they ain't get none. And as far as I am aware, the minister did not issue license for them to pilot ships.
So my question is back to the anchorage. When the minister issued those licenses were licenses issued to independent pilots.
Well, all licenses are licenses issued to independent pilots. You don't need to. They're no different from my license or any other pilot license that the minister issues. They all issue to independent persons. You can't issue a pilot license to anything other than an independent person.
Well, that is the point that I'm trying to make.
Well, make your point because I keep saying
That's
that.
the point I'm trying to make. So if on the back end, after these licenses were issued by the minister to these individuals to be able to operate at that particular port area or that in that to bring ships to that particular anchorage. Why if and this is a question you may or may not be able to answer. Why would if a pilot is deemed to not be in good standing with a group, that particular grouping, why would he be denied, or attempts would be made for him to be denied, for him not to participate in, continue to make a living in that area?
Well, this attempt is being made by the minister who issued the license.
No, what I mean by anybody.
Because nobody got the rights to deny. The reality is the only person who can put restriction or take away your license, the person who issued it. Only the minister. Nobody could do what you're suggesting. I mean, they could make attempts, and if you want to fall prey to that on you, that's like saying to me, somebody's going to tell me I can't use my license to bring ships in Nassau Harbor because I'm not part of a group. That's nonsense.
Okay, but you answered the question.
I know
the question, and I knew the answer to that question, but I asked you because I wanted to bring it out on the show, because I believe that in moving forward, this whole concept of pilots when they receive a license and what they're capable of doing pursuant to the granting of that license have to be examined. Have to be examined for not only the pilotage area of New Providence or Grand Bahama or Bimini or whatever. We have to look at this thing holistically. I remember your caller last week with a advance or proposition, and really and truly we have to sit down and we have to document, or if it is not, if what I'm saying is not already documented, it have to be documented as to how this all going to play out as we develop the new pilot industry in the Bahamas. And so I will, I just believe that is something very important for us to look at, how we develop these islands and how we develop those particular rules.
Well, let's just look at what we have, Captain Bain. We have a situation where we have port areas in the Bahamas, right? Every island has a port area. Every port of entry have a port area. Every port area is supposed to have a port authority that regulates that port area.
Right.
And there's no reason why in this day and time somebody could come and suggest to me that Long Island doesn't have a port area because they can't find qualified people to make up the board. It's only a port authority board.
Yeah.
right?
And-
So every island should have a port authority board. For example, let's go to Bimini and Ocean Key, right? You a pilot, I'm a pilot. If they have a port authority board for that area as they are supposed to, that port authority for that area is supposed to ensure that ships are piloted by qualified pilots. If they do not have pilots from that area that are qualified, then they find pilots who are prepared to come in there and do the piloting, right, on behalf of that port authority that quite technically recommends to the minister, pilot so-and-so is qualified. We want this pilot to bring in ships at the 2 cruise ship ports in the Bimini chain, being Resort World and Ocean Key, right? And we want also, Minister, to have a pilot apprentice who's from Bimini. He's already went to sea on large ships. He went to maritime school at SUNY or Mass Maritime or Cal Maritime, and we want this fellow or this young lady to apprentice whichever pilot is going to be bringing these ships in the Bimini chain, because we want this person to eventually become the pilot, right? That's how it's supposed to happen by law.
So Captain Bain, who examines these pilots? Like, the law states that the port department. Would it be for that particular?
But the law don't state that it's the port department. The law states that it's the port authority for that area.
Okay, so we know that government infrastructure is very, very lethargic, and that may happen when your great
No, sir, I don't think so. I think that if the government wants to make that happen today, those port authorities for those areas will be established today. There's no reason why you can't name 8 people. There's no reason why you can't name 8 people from a community to serve as a port authority board. Well, you're doing it in Nassau all the time, and the people on the port authority board don't know nothing but no maritime. I mean, as far as I know, right? The maritime people who I know, and I've never been on. Well, I wouldn't say never, but I don't see the list that I saw as the port authority board. People who understands anything but piloting, anything about how you handle ships, anything about inspecting ships, anything to do with maritime. But we know that they have these boards. Now these boards can consult.
Captain Bain, I sorry to cut you off, but if New Providence, that's the central government, if the Port Authority Board at New Providence and so that manages the maritime industry throughout this country, if these people are deficient, then how then do we establish a proficient board in all these different port areas that's funded by the government, and that is going to make sure that, for example, John Doe, who just graduated from SUNY Maritime, is suitably examined and that he has the requisite training over the whatever length of time that's necessary. I think it says something to. I think, and I stand to be corrected, it's 4 years. At least that's what I had to go through. How then do we have faith in establishing a similar boards throughout these various island communities without central government having a major capital outlay and a major part in getting it done? And how do we get it done when every time we look around, the government says there's no money?
Well, the oversight has to come from a government entity. Any oversight in this country to do with anything to do with you getting a license has to come from a government entity. You don't want a private entity issuing licenses or authority for people to do things. It has to be a government entity. We just need to ensure that the government entity that is regulated already to do these things are in fact put in place and are in fact carrying out the laws as required. And there's people like you and me that can start off making things like that happen. Because you got a minister of transport coming in, don't know anything about maritime, don't know anything about pilots and ships, and somebody need to drop in that minister's ear that, look, we got a board for this, but this thing, the law said this. Now, one thing with these ministers is they could read law, right? They could read law and they could understand it just like me and you. Mm-hmm. So the minister being hinted that, look, we need to do something with this, or it'd be good for us to look into this, because right now this law is not being enforced. So things are taking its own. I mean, you know, and I know that you have qualified people out there in Nassau. You have people who have been the captain of marine tanker ships, the captain of vessels for Bahamas ferries. These people have went off and certified themselves as captain for vessels up to 3,000 gross tons, right? And they have actually captained vessels in and out of Florida on that license. And these would be the people that we have on the ground that would be the most qualified to be a pilot apprentice, right? The most qualified to be a pilot apprentice. And yet, when it comes to appoint pilots, apprentices, if you know one of the pilots, or if you know somebody big up in the port department, or if you know somebody on the Maritime Authority board, and you ain't never been to sea in your life, you could be a pilot apprentice.
Yeah.
So that type of nonsense gotta cut out.
Right. So what you're saying, Captain Dane, is that if we come up with a strategy on which island, invariably you probably won't be able to address all the port areas at the same time.
Why not?
If we come up with I don't know.
Why? Do you don't have people on all the port areas? You don't have people living in all the port areas?
Pardon?
Do we have people living in all the port areas?
Yeah. What I'm talking about these people have to, at least, I mean, we can't replicate the inefficiencies that we have.
No, but we could name the board and give them guidance. They just need people could read. Captain Bain. People can read like me and you. They can go to the Port Authority Act and see what the responsibilities are, and I'm sure they're capable of carrying it out if they know that's what they're responsible for. This easy stuff. This ain't nothing hard to do.
Okay, so what you were suggesting is once we put in place the framework, and that same framework can be utilized throughout all the various port areas, and once they follow that framework, we will get what we're looking for in terms of having suitably qualified people and all the conditions for the issuance of pilot apprentices and for licensing pilots and the like. That we'll be able to do that once we have the framework for everybody to replicate, each port area to replicate.
It can be addressed in concert. It can be addressed concertedly for the whole entire Bahamas, because we got people all around the Bahamas who can be part of these things. Once they can be given the proper guidance and they know this is the legislation, read it, this is what you're supposed to do, and somebody could consult with somebody to assist, and they could call me anytime. I'm more than happy to give you free guidance, right?
So what you're saying is that once we consult our good minister, she has the capacity to go with us on this journey to fix this thing once and for all.
I think if we respectfully approach the Minister of Transport about these inefficiencies that exist in marine pilots and pilots apprentices and port areas and port authority boards, because the law provides that each port area outside of Nassau and Freeport could have 2 pilots each, and each pilot everywhere in the Bahamas can have up to 2 apprentices.
Right.
So we have the structure.
Indeed.
And if you have a ship like Disney Cruises, for example, they've been going to Castaway Cay now for, well over 20 years, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Well over 20 years, they had that dock in Castaway Cay. And they piloting their own ship in and out of there every day. Somebody from Abaco by now should have had that job, because they were apprentices first, and now that person from Abaco is now a pilot, and they base in Abaco, and they can bring any time that ship have to come in and go out, they're there to do it. They have the pilot boat. They have the pilot boat crew, and they charge Disney based on what needs to happen. There's no need for Disney captains to be bringing their own ship in. That's foolishness and that's nonsense. And that's unacceptable in this day and time.
Well, I agree with you 100%, my friend, and that is the only way that we're going to build the Bahamas and build opportunities for Bahamians. And this is a low-hanging fruit, in my opinion.
Very low.
Something that we can get done. And so again, I'm entreating my good minister to let's sit down and let us discuss this. Let's see how we can make it better in the Bahamas for Bahamians.
Yeah, and if we do that, if we do it by the letter of the law, we're gonna be stamping out some corruption that some people wouldn't want to happen, eh?
Indeed.
Okay.
So thank you very much for the opportunity and for the platform, my friend. And wonderful show as usual. Continue to keep it on.
Thank you, my brother. And when you're ready to make that arrangement, we could make arrangement to respectfully approach the minister with our knowledge and what we know and see if the minister would accommodate us. I'm almost sure that any minister would, Okay, so you take care, man, and keep in touch.
Okay, have a good one. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We got another caller. Caller, you're live on Maritime Matters. I see
Yes,
that.
I came back with my comment based on the previous caller.
Yes, sir.
And I'd like to go specifically to the law. In Part 3 of the Port Authorities and Port Areas, this is where the problem comes in for us as Bahamians and expanding the maritime industry. Now, Section 11 says the Governor General may. This is very important, and it says may, by order, declare any port area of the Bahamas to be a port area and define the limits of such. But if you read further down in Section C, it says that members of the Port Authority of New Providence shall, which is very important because we need to not just apply the law if the law needs amending, because it should be a requirement. So as long as that word may is there, it's a free-for-all for any persons who wish to do it or wish not to do it. But as we progress and we're punching at a level way higher than with skill set that we have, we need to specify in the law exactly what is required to become a pilot, what is required to pilot the ship and the fees, etc. So the law speaks to it, but it gives the option of may when it comes to the Family Islands, and it gives specifically for the New Providence port shall. So this is where the problem comes in, where we can apply it or force it, or even if we complain about it, they don't have to do it because it says they may do it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. You're reading where they say the Governor General may establish port areas, right? That is only for areas where port authorities have not already been established. We already have over 10 port harbors, port areas that has already been established.
Port authorities. They don't have port authorities.
No, they don't have port authorities, but they have port areas, and the Act will tell you that for each port area, you should have a port authority that deals with those things.
It's may.
Pardon?
The word is may.
No. That's for the ones that are not already established. If you look at the port authorities, the port authority areas for the Bahamas, they have an act on telling you where all the port authorities are.
In the Bahamas,
right,
governed by the High Commission or whatever they change.
No. That's not so. That's not so.
It says may. So
No. It says the governor. No. It says the Governor General.
It doesn't just the port areas.
No.
What I'm saying is because they don't have port authorities appointed in the various islands, there's no reason to enforce any type of law on these folks.
No, but they didn't say.
That's just what I'm saying. When I read it, when you speak about port area in Nassau, it says shall.
Well, when you talk about port areas, you're not talking about port authority boards, right?
No, I'm talking about port authorities. If you read the
Yeah,
act,
port
it says,
authorities, and they
some
have.
of them are under Section 3.
Well,
Part 3, it
no.
says port authorities and port areas. This is what it, and underneath that, it says the Governor General may. Okay, so this is dealing with the family islands. Now, when you get to New Providence, it says the Governor General shall. So the Port Authority of New Providence.
No, but what does it say? The Governor General shall, or what does it say? The Governor General may do.
I'm just saying the reason why we ignore it, and so that's just my comment.
No, you're saying that you're saying that the Governor General may establish port areas, right? And that's what you're saying?
It says the Governor General, 11 says the Governor General may. Then it has A, B, and C. By order declare any port of the Bahamas to be a port area. Section B, it says by order fix and declare peace. On Section C, it says appoint a port authority for any port area for a period not exceeding 3 years and shall appoint such authority for New Providence. So they use may when it comes to the Family Islands and shall when it comes to New Providence. So this is why we have no port authorities in the islands. And they use the councillors, they use the local governments, and they use the various things as a response to. So when we talk about this, it's very important to establish a piloting association or some type of legislative framework that allows you to operate, charge fees, and your services be used by the cruise, because this is very vague. They don't have to do it. When they do something, they don't have to do it.
Well, the reality is you don't have to do anything, because even the Port Authority for Nassau, which we know is established, ain't doing what they should be doing. The reality is if we know that a cruise ship is going in a certain area, if we know that a harbor is going to be developed in a certain area, if we know that a harbor is going to be developed in a certain area in advance, then we have the provision where the Governor General has he may appoint, because now we know what's going to happen. So the provision is there for the Governor General to declare that a port area and declare a Port Authority Board. And we have the provision for it to happen. And if we have the provision for it to happen, there's no reason why at this day in time it hasn't happened. Remember that act was written from 1965. Why in 2020 something, 2022? We still back in 65. Those things should have been established a long time ago. There's no reason today to say that we don't have an established port area in a particular area when you have already delineated those port areas. And you have the provision for the Governor General to make that happen. There's no reason why it isn't in place. The only reason is we haven't done it. And we don't need excuses why it ain't done, or we don't need to say he may means he don't have to. If we want it to happen, if the government wants it to happen, then the Governor General will make it happen. So that's not put there to say only if the Governor General feels so. No, when there's a requirement, that provision is there for it to happen. So we as the Bahamian people should not be held back saying that the Governor General may do it, but he ain't gonna do it. That don't make sense to me. But anyway, how can one qualify to become a marine pilot? I see no more lines lit up. Y'all giving me time to go into. Look, how come all the time done gone already? I only get 25 minutes left, and I still ain't reach my questions yet. Anyway, let's answer this one. How can one qualify to become a marine pilot? I think I told you from last show that to be a marine pilot, you remember what a marine pilot does now. You actually go on board the ship and you command the ship. You take over the controls. Once the captain tells you got the ship, and in most cases, if the captain is not somebody that is familiar with that port area because he comes here very often, he's been doing it for years, and he knows the port, he may say to the pilot, I'm happy to take the ship in. And the captain has the call. A pilot can't go on board a ship and tell the pilot, Captain, I'm here now, I got to take your ship. No, it doesn't work that way. The captain have to authorize the pilot when he can take the ship. And if the captain decide, pilot, I'm going to take my own ship in, the pilot can't get in that because the pilot have no authority over the captain. The pilot has authority when the captain gives him command. He's now in charge. If the captain say, pilot, I take my ship back, the pilot have to leave it alone. He can't do nothing because he's only there as a guide. He's there as a consultant. He's there to do a job if the captain wants him to do it. But if the captain don't trust that pilot, because at the end of the day, if the pilot run the ship aground, the captain is going to be responsible. And in most cases, the captain will lose his job. So the pilot is really never in charge of that ship from an authority perspective. The captain can call him off at any moment, anytime, and say, I got the ship. If he is not confident that the pilot is making him comfortable. The pilot may be making him very uncomfortable. And he has the right to take his ship back. So, if you want to be a pilot, where you go on board a ship, board that ship from in the ocean, and you going to bring that ship safely into the harbor to get to the dock where it needs to go. Quite technically, you first of all should be a ship captain. You should know what it is to captain a ship. Because if you're going to take command of a ship and you never captain a ship, you're only halfway there. And I want nobody fool themselves thinking, oh, I've been a pilot now for 30 years and but I never been a ship captain, but I know what I'm doing. Yes, you may know what you're doing. But had you been a captain first, you would know better what you're doing. Right? Because you would have been in situations where you are in command and you have to feel and do things. Right? So, first of all, to qualify to become a pilot apprentice in the real world, and I don't consider the Bahamas the real world yet because plenty of foolishness still going on here, right? But in the real world, if you want to qualify to be a marine pilot, first of all, you have to have an officer's certification under STCW. And STCW is the international standard of training for seafarers and watchkeepers. And they have stipulated under STCW what all you have to go through to become a deck officer and then become a chief mate and a master. On board a ship, they start with 500 ton size, then they go up to 3,000 gross tons, then they go up to anything over 3,000 gross tons, which means you are unlimited master mariner. You're a master. You. That's what they call a master mariner. Yeah, you can be the captain of any ship, but of course, specialty ships require further training. Example, tanker. If you want to be a captain of a tanker, yeah, you may be a master mariner, and you've been working bulk carriers and cruise ships, but you never work tanker, so you don't understand all the details of the product you carrying and the data. So they require you to do further training to be a master mariner on a tanker. You got a call on the line. Oh, I probably need this break. Caller, on Maritime Matters. Good evening to you. Thank you for calling. Hey, top shape, General. How are you, sir?
I'm all right, sir. You still on topic with the pilot thing from last week.
Yeah. It's a couple of things I didn't get to cover, and I want to try to cover it tonight. But look like I ain't gonna make it tonight, so I must get scrap this one for a while and come back probably next 2 months or so. But I can do as much as I could tonight. What's happening, man?
All is good. The captain, man. This is Maritime Matters, right?
This is Maritime Matters, my friend.
Exactly. And I read a story just a while ago. Reading is Tribune, and this is Maritime now. If a boat with 95 people on it, it's 20 miles up Boca Raton, with one Ugandan, one Bahamian, and the rest is 35 of them, and the rest are males of 80. That boat's supposed to come to back to the Bahamas. Because the boat, they say they've been on the water for a week, and it's a boat that has a motor. It's a power craft.
It's a power craft.
On the water for a week. Where that boat come from?
The boat was on the waters for a week and it's coming into the Bahamas?
No. Boca Raton, Florida. And the U.S. Coast Guard and the people over to the Bahamas immigration to I guess find out who have rights to be here and who have wrongs, go back to where they come from.
So the boat came from the Bahamas and went to Boca Raton?
No, to come from the Bahamas, it don't take a week with a motor vessel. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. It shouldn't take a week to get it to the Bahamas. I mean, to Florida from the Bahamas.
No.
It wouldn't take almost a week.
This boat come from Haiti with 95 people on it. One Ugandan, one Bahamian. So with one Bahamian on board, because one Bahamian on board, the boat have to come to the Bahamas with Uganda. Why didn't send the boat to Uganda?
Well, I don't know the details. The reality is, what type of boat was it? Is it a registered ship that is actually licensed to do that voyage?
It's about it. Yeah, man. The boat is tend to be about about 40 or 50 feet. But
but is it
on board? No, man.
Yeah, but is it a cargo ship or passenger vessel?
No, it's not a cargo ship. It's like a fishing vessel sort.
Oh, fishing vessel.
Yeah, it's a fiberglass sailboat.
Yeah, so that in my opinion is not a registered passenger ship.
No.
So if it was a registered passenger ship going into Boca Raton, obviously they would be playing by the IMO, the SOLAS rules. So if this is a rogue boat that is just trafficking people, I mean they don't have no regulation for that, eh?
I don't know, but I mean, how could you're so glad in American waters stand the boat over to the Bahamas authorities and in American waters when they come from Haiti?
But without the details, I wouldn't be able to say, because the boat, I don't know who was the boat captain. Was the Bahamian the captain of the boat?
I don't know. They said one Bahamian is on board. I don't think his name is the captain. One Bahamian is on the boat and everyone is Asian.
Yeah, well, you have a lot of boats where you have one Bahamian on board. Who's the captain? When you talk about
the captain.
Well, that could be the case too, but I mean, we need to know. I really don't want to speculate on something when I don't know the details.
Yeah, it's a story in the Tribune.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, but they wouldn't give you the details that we would need to know to decipher how things supposed to happen once the Coast Guard get a hand on them, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing. I mean, how you feel about the Bahamas sending them police over there to Haiti to help with law enforcement?
Well, that's not quite maritime, but let me I want to answer that for you in a minute, because we did that before, right? Let me just get to this next caller. Just hold on the line. Don't go nowhere.
Okay.
All right. Maritime Matters. Good night, caller. Thank you for calling.
Good evening, Captain Ben.
Good evening to you, sir.
This is your good friend in Freeport.
Which of my good friends in Freeport? I got plenty good friends in Freeport. I think I hear the voice, but go right ahead, my brother.
Okay, this is Ben Ferguson.
Hey, Bishop. How are you, sir?
I'm not too bad, sir.
Your radio in the background is giving me a little feedback, so
I'm trying to get that. That's the TV.
Oh, that's the TV. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling. What's happening, man? Talk to me. You're a maritime man, for those who don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm sitting listening, and Captain Herbie has been on the system for quite a while.
Oh yeah.
But I just want to simply say that there are many areas that have been discussed tonight that needs to be revamped and properly restructured in order for us to really get the benefits as it relates to these particular areas in the Bahamas.
That's absolutely correct, Brother Ben. Well, actually, if we apply the laws as they are before we even start trying to tweak them, we will make a big, huge improvement if we only apply what's already on the books.
Yes, sir. When I was at the port as the senior deputy port director,
right,
I have been appointed by Minister Martin to in fact. We had a committee was appointed, and for various aspects of the society and different government departments for 1 year, we studied the whole program, and we have made a very serious recommendation that would cover a lot of these particular areas that have been talked tonight. All right, and time and time again. But of course, I don't know what happened to the actual recommendation.
Right.
It has never come into effect. But I think that document should be still sitting somewhere.
Yeah, that
All right?
could be a start. That could be a start because I know of other recommendations that were put forward, and like you say, sometimes they just sit on the shelf and catch dust. But let me ask you, Brother Ben, when you was the deputy port controller and the senior deputy port controller in Freeport, did you have an established Port Authority board for Grand Bahama?
No, the Port Authority board was actually controlled by the port office.
Well, I mean that's the New Providence Port Authority. Did you have a Grand Bahama Port Authority board under the Boat Registration Act or under the
No, we did not.
Port
We
Authorities
did not
Act?
have an established board in Grand Bahama.
So that never happened. That still don't happen today then.
Well, not to my knowledge.
Yeah, and I see things like that we need to fix.
You know.
Because there's no reason why you can't have, because when you talk about a board, you have people in Freeport far more qualified than some of these people in Freeport and Nassau who we putting on board. So the board could very readily be enacted and start to do things based on what's written in law.
That is correct.
So, well, I don't know. We're gonna have to keep pressing on with this. I'm not gonna sit down and rest. I'm gonna push and see what could be done because the Bahamas has moved leaps and bounds since the 60s when the Port Authorities Act was written. And I don't know of much things that were changed in the law, the body of the law itself. And I don't know if much need to be changed. Because if you really look at the body of the Port Authorities Act and you apply what's there, man, this would be a different outcome altogether than what we have going on today.
Well, I would agree with you 100%, but something has to be done.
Something has to be done.
Because we have a lot of deficiencies.
Yes, sir.
In the area it relates to the actual enforcement.
That's correct.
As it relates to the Bahamas Port Authority laws, we need to have something done, and it needs to be done quickly.
That is correct. That's correct. Well, Brother Ben, I thank you so much for your contribution, my friend, and you graced our show at last. I am so happy to hear from you. So just tell the family hello for me. You know, you're my best friend in Freeport. We always get together. Tell the family hello for me and keep listening, man. I appreciate it, and take care of yourself.
Well, do the same to me, and of course, continue your work that you're doing. You're actually enlightening what I would call the public as it relates to maritime matters.
That is correct.
Some of which I'm sure people have not heard before.
Yes, sir. Well, I thank you so much, my friend, and we'll keep in touch.
Yes, sir.
Take it easy.
Okay, good night.
Yeah. General Simonet. Hello. Boy, look like you go and leave me. Well, I had to take that call, Brother Simonet, but you can call back at any time. I'm going to be standing by for you. Actually, we only got, 10 minutes left? Boy, I don't know why time is flying so fast on this show, but we got 10 minutes left. And I can see how much of these things I could address if there are no callers before we close out in this 10 minutes. I probably need to go to a break for you, say. Lord, could I take a break? Yeah. My boss said I must take a break. All right, Mr. Producer, let's take a break, sir. Thank you so much.
Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Sanders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart. At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Maritime Matters. We down to our last 7, 8-ish, minute-ish. And the numbers to call in, for those who didn't get it earlier, we had a quite active show tonight with calls. 326-8255. You can still get in the 7, 8 minutes left. And I will just try and wrap up as best I can because, I got so much going on. I'm just run over these things one at a time because we're not going to come back with this next week. Next week, we'd get into some other stuff. And maybe in the next month or two, we'll see how things go with the minister and the port controller and the port authority chairman, because I'm going to make it a point to reach out to these entities, see if we could fix some of these things. And that's how we're going to roll with this. So I was saying that to become a marine pilot, quite technically, you want to be a seafarer first. You want to be a deck officer, where you on the bridge while pilots come and you watch what they do. And the thing about it is when you go to bring this ship in, you can't go on the ship and 5 minutes later after you bounce up and down in the ocean because the sea dead rough, you seasick and can't bring in the people's ship. When they really need a pilot, it's when it's really, really rough. The boat tumbling up. See, so you should have already gone in the ocean, out to sea on big ships and know what it is to be on a ship when it's rough. So that when you get a nice job, we ain't talking about how much money these pilots make here. When you get a nice job to go on a ship as a pilot, you already know how to take that sea. You're not going to get seasick on the people boat and start vomiting and say, I can't handle this cap, you better take you on ship. That ain't gonna work. Because that ain't what people got you for. They got you there for times when they probably can't get it done. All right? That's when the pilot really comes out and get his job done. So we talk about pilots' licenses. Hey, okay, is that a call? Oh, boy, y'all ain't gonna let me finish tonight? Anyway, calling on Maritime Matters. Thank you so much for calling. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Ben. How are you, sir?
I'm in top shape and getting better, my brother. How are you?
Very well, indeed. Julian Happy Camp speaking.
Hey, Abby, boy, long time no see. You still building all them house?
Yeah, I was following your show from your first came on.
Oh, lovely. I appreciate that.
You was going to try to talk about some regulations with regards to all these fishing boats that go with all this diving crew. No life jackets, no safety equipment, etc.
Oh, yes, I could get on the fishing. Actually, we talk about fishing. I'm not sure we talk about fishing boats. I had Mr. Wendell Clark, who used to be a fisheries officer, on my show twice already, and we address a lot of things in fishing. And you can probably go back and on YouTube and pull up those shows with Mr. Wendell Clark. But I agree with you that we probably need to talk about safety on board fishing vessels.
I am so concerned too. Like when I used to be to sea, right?
Yeah.
And every time we board these local fishing boats, even the local boats, they might have 9, 10 sailors on the boat. They don't have one life jacket.
That is correct.
They don't even have a ship-to-shore radio, and when are we going to start regulating shipping in the Bahamas, sir?
I'll tell you why fishing boats can get away with that, Brother Abby. Because the port department is responsible for registering 2 types of vessels, right? They register commercial vessels, which they are required to inspect every year.
Right.
And they register non-commercial vessels, which fishing vessels fall into that category, because a fishing vessel is not there to apply for hire. They don't take freight and they don't take passengers for money. They go there to catch their own fish, and they come under what you call the Water Skiing Act, where they just get a number, and they're not required to be inspected because they're not carrying passengers or freight. And that's unfortunate, but they also have to be issued a fishing permit from the fisheries department. But of course, the fisheries department don't get into the details of technicalities of whether this boat is safety from a going to sea perspective. So what?
But then moving away from safety now. When I was on the sea, I've noticed that a whole lot of the big, expensive yachts, they come in from overseas, And they go into these canals, go into these backyards, and offload thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of glistening, and customs never had a chance to see it.
Yeah, but that's people who are actually criminals, Abby. They are actually violating the Customs Act. So when you got people who want to do crime, I mean, they if they caught by a customs officer, I'm sure they would have to pay some heavy fines and whatnot. So when it comes to vessels coming, yachts, whether it be super yachts or small yachts, or even fishing boats going in and out of the states and bringing goods that they just land in the canal without customs even knowing, they're just being crooks.
Good point, sir.
They're just being crooks. But what I want to say to you about those inspecting fishing vessels, though, Abby, under the Bahamas Maritime Authority responsibility, they're supposed to issue something called a local safety certificate to vessels that are not commercial vessels that are not what they call soulless vessels. In other words, they're local domestic vessels. Right? And in my opinion, fishing vessels would come under this, where they're required to have a certificate to say that the vessel itself is safe. Right. And that certificate comes along with...
Watch that last one before you go. I know time is of essence.
Yes, you got 1 minute.
Sometime back they had a big accident at sea. A couple of the boats going to, I think, the Galvers, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was the Seahawk and the United Star.
Yeah,
the Seahawk and the United Star.
All those loss of life and all of that.
Yeah, 4 people got killed.
And I still see one of the guys wrong. I spoke to him last week. He never compensated for injuries and all of that. And insurance is something we need to look at as well. Because if you're operating a big mail boat, like as we often said in the past, right?
Yeah.
Or freight boat link. Some of these folks don't have insurance, man.
Yeah,
you kill people and things like that. And what happened? The families of these folks who died get nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about, so that's why I was so interested in that show. And I'm glad you came on this show because it'll bring some awareness to everybody who are not familiar with the shipping act and all of that thing. You know?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought up that point, Abby, because I got a marine specialist, my very good friend. He and I in the same running club. He has agreed to come on the show at some point so we could talk a little bit about marine insurance. Right? Because it's a lot we could talk about marine insurance. So at some point soon, he and I would have a show to cover marine insurance, and I could try and reach out to you and make sure you could listen into that one as well.
No, I'll be listening to Colin because this is the first time I'm so thankful that you decided to take on this model and bring some awareness to the local folks, because there are a whole lot of folks who are not quite aware of what's going on in the shipping industry and all of that. So, I mean, I must give you kudos now, Captain Ben.
Man, Abby, I appreciate that so much, my brother. I appreciate that. Well, we used to sail together, and you used to take care of our ships. So, the defense forces from whence we all came, my brother.
Indeed, sir.
So thank you for calling, and you're going to be the last caller for the night, and continue listening, and we shall keep in touch, my friend.
Will do, sir.
Thank you so much. All right, Abby.
All right, sir.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my good friend from way back in Defense Force days, Mr. Abby Camp. Done so well for himself, got out of the Defense Force. He's a big contractor, make up those dollars and dollars and dollars. But he's a very good man, and he knows a lot about vessels because he used to work in the shipwright department. And while in shipwright, you know what they do? They fix your ship, and he was one of the best. So, hats off to Abby, and I thank him for calling. And with that, we're going to have to end our show tonight. Time has gone past. My producer's allowing me to just run on with one or two things. So let me just say, my sponsors for tonight, Bahamas Maritime Connection, yeah, that's us. And of course, One-on-One Pharmacy, my good cousin Shantia Heel McBride. You got to go and check them out because they're going to treat you just okay. So we're not sure whether we can take this up next week because I still ain't covered this. We do this another time because we got to keep moving on with the show. So ladies and gentlemen, with that, I say Maritime Matters out.